The movie opens with Nikki walking out of a lavish house, reflecting on how handsome he is. From the moment he arrived in Los Angeles, he envisioned a life surrounded by women, a dream he has effortlessly turned into reality. One evening, Nikki visits a trendy nightclub where he crosses paths with Samantha, a woman who will become his next target. Although she initially resists his advances, Nikki's persistent charm overpowers her reluctance. Despite her initial refusal, he uses his influence to wear her down, eventually persuading her to join him for the night. The encounter sets the stage for a darker and more manipulative journey ahead. The next morning, Samantha wakes up early for work, and Nikki pretends to be asleep again. When she starts to get ready, she gives him her credit card for groceries, asking him to pick up some food while she's away. He nods, grateful for the freedom to stay a little longer. After she leaves, he spends the morning relaxing by the pool and attempts to cook dinner, taking full advantage of the quiet cottage. Later, when Samantha returns, Nikki showers her with attention, making her feel cherished and adored. When she asks what he does for work, he simply says, "Nothing yet," and they share a tender moment together. The routine continues over the next few days, but when Samantha has to travel for business, Nikki manages to convince Samantha that he should stay home, all this for the sake of a cool party where his best friend, Harry, has been invited. Their conversation is cut short when Nikki's ex-girlfriend, Helen, unexpectedly shows up. Nikki worries she might figure out the house isn't his, so he quickly asks Harry to handle the situation and get her out. Just as things settle, they're interrupted again, this time by Christine, who wants to see the house. Nikki takes the opportunity to charm her and, by the end of the tour, gets her into bed. Later, Nikki and Harry are alone, and Nikki offers his friend a place to sleep in the next room. The next day, Nikki invites Emily, who knows all too well about his manipulative ways. Despite this, she can't resist him, and they end up in bed together. Emily suggests starting a serious relationship, but Nikki turns her down, instead taking her to a motel. Back at home, he plans to meet another girl, but everything is thrown off when Samantha unexpectedly returns. A fight breaks out between them, but Nikki manages to convince her to keep their relationship going. A new day arrives, and while Samantha is at work, Nikki visits a cafe where Heather works. She's different from the others and rejects Nikki's advances. Undeterred, Nikki refuses to back down, leaving without paying the bill but leaving his number behind. Heather quickly tracks him down, demanding he settle the bill. Nikki suggests showing her his house, but she firmly declines. Over the following days, Nikki can't stop thinking about Heather, causing his focus on Samantha to fade. He comes up with a plan. He'll pretend to be a wealthy businessman, with Harry acting as his assistant. Heather notices Nikki's expensive car and warns him about a potential parking ticket. Nikki panics and rushes to avoid it, but it's no use. Still, Heather eventually gives him her number. That evening, Nikki attempts to call her, and Samantha notices. The next day, Harry advises him to forget about the waitress, but Nikki remains fixated, determined to win her over. Afterward, Nikki plays a prank on a friend, which Harry disapproves of and quickly kicks the friend out. Later that afternoon, Heather calls Nikki and suggests they go out to dinner. During their meal, Heather gets an urgent phone call, forcing her to leave abruptly. Nikki is confused by her sudden departure and asks for an explanation, but Heather simply leaves without saying anything. The following morning, Samantha confronts Nikki, accusing him of seeing someone else. Nikki denies it, but Samantha presses further and asks him to drive her to the hospital, requesting that he pick her up the next day. After taking Samantha to the hospital, Nikki heads back to the cafe, only to find that Heather no longer works there. He feels disappointed, but when he returns home, he's shocked to find Heather swimming in his pool. She apologizes for leaving so suddenly the night before and explains that her brother has a rare disease, and she had to leave to help him immediately. Nikki listens, though still uncertain about the situation, while Heather reassures him that her actions had nothing to do with him. The mystery of her sudden departure lingers in his mind. A new day arrives, and Nikki takes Heather's car key to park it. To his surprise, he finds a couple of cigars in the car, assuming they belong to her boyfriend. Feeling betrayed, he orders her to leave. At the hospital, the doctor informs Nikki that after Samantha's surgery, they'll need to avoid intimacy for a while to ensure proper healing. A few days later, Samantha notices that Nikki hasn't been returning her calls and decides to end their relationship. Just before leaving, Nikki's phone rings, and in a fit of anger, Samantha throws it into the water. Homeless and desperate, Nikki tries to turn to Harry for help, but after a heated argument, Harry refuses to let him in. Emily also rejects him, unwilling to entertain his manipulative ways. In his desperation, Nikki calls Harry to apologize and suggests meeting at a club. There, he meets Sean. As Nikki watches Harry and Sean interact with women, he becomes uncomfortable and tries to defend them. This leads to Nikki being thrown out of the club, further isolating him from everyone around him. Harry says the girls are just dancers, prompting Nikki to tell him not to objectify women. Harry dismisses her words as hypocritical. Nikki, on the hunt for a new home, attempts to sneak into a party but is quickly thrown out. The next day, he spends the last of his money to rent a cheap motel. However, this lifestyle doesn't suit him, so he heads to a luxurious hotel to find his next victim. To his surprise, Heather is there. She confronts him about his preferences, forcing Nikki to admit that he's broke, with no money for either a place to stay or food. It's his only shot at feeling human again. But then, Heather insults his next target, revealing that she's just like him. Later, Heather invites Nikki to her place, warning him about her drug-addicted neighbor who stays in his room all the time. She also shares that she's broken up with the owner of the Porsche she's been driving. Now, Heather has a bigger goal in mind. She and Nikki begin working together as a team. Nikki helps her find wealthy targets, taking a share of the proceeds. The couple parties late into the night and eventually starts dating. After enjoying an expensive meal, Heather hands Nikki a piece of tin foil, asking him to chew it with his food. Under this ruse, they refuse to pay for the meal. As their relationship grows, Nikki becomes bothered by Heather's continued ways of making money. One day, while he's asleep, she receives a package containing petal growth. Nikki notices Heather appears down, and when he asks what's wrong, she says, "I broke up the wedding." Confused, Nikki wonders why she hadn't told him earlier. Heather explains that her ex-fiancé was a wealthy man who ran a company in New York, but Nikki means far more to her than he ever did. Nikki questions whether Heather's feelings for him are real or just part of an act. Heather reassures him that her feelings are genuine, explaining that she chose him even though he has no money. Nikki, feeling insulted, decides to walk away. At a cafe, Nikki declines every offer, determined to start a fresh life with Heather. On his way back home, he spots a newspaper with job listings, but his focus remains on Heather. Upon returning home, he finds a note from Heather saying she has to go back to New York to take care of some things. Nikki immediately tries calling her, but she doesn't pick up. The next day, Nikki runs into an old friend who's drunk. He offers her a ride home, but as they're driving, his phone rings. It's Heather. She insists she didn't go back to her ex, but Nikki hears a woman's voice in the background. He tries to explain that he was just helping his friend, but Heather, suspecting the worst, thinks he's returned to his old ways and hangs up on him. Back at Heather's apartment, Nikki tries to have a conversation with her neighbor, who suggests he fly to New York and propose to Heather. The only problem? Nikki has no money. Luckily, Harry comes to his aid, sharing his own story. With Harry's help, Nikki manages to make the trip to the city. Once there, he arrives at the address he believes belongs to the groom. The door opens, and to his surprise, Heather is standing there. She looks hurt, and Nikki, sensing the tension, reassures her that nothing happened between him and the woman he was seen with. Nikki then tells Heather that she needs to understand her life is not what she dreams it to be. Money won't bring happiness. But Heather refuses to return with him. Determined, Nikki pulls out a ring, wanting to prove he's ready for more, but Heather coldly informs him that she's already married. As if on cue, Will walks into the room. Heather quickly pretends that Nikki is just a delivery man. Will gives Nikki a few dollars as a tip, and Nikki leaves, heartbroken. Back in Los Angeles, Nikki is determined to rebuild his life by working multiple jobs. One of his jobs is at Samantha's house, but by the time he arrives, she's already found a replacement for him. Undeterred, Nikki convinces Harry to let him stay with him. Although he once despised Harry's frogs, he finds himself feeding them with newfound appreciation, signaling a shift in his perspective and attitude toward life. And the movie ends here.